Coalesce podcast. My name is Grant.
And I'm Meg.
And today, as Meg brought up at the end of the last episode, we are going to solve a little problem where even in our admin pages, and there's really nothing preventing this anywhere, is this concept of how do I make it so that I can't assign a correct answer that is part of a different question, right? That is parented to a different question. Now, we could fix this box here, and there's some ways to do that with like a default data source and things like that. But really, we want to fix the underlying code so that you can't just secure your front end. You have to secure your back end so that you can't do things that are going to jeopardize your model, right? So we have to do that. I suppose we could make a table for every question, which then it would just work. But that's a horrible idea. So let's not do it that way. So there's this thing called behaviors inside Coalesce, which effectively allow you to manage when things are being saved and updated and deleted. And so you can basically capture those events before they happen. Now, we talked about data sources, which is the way to handle the reads of that. But this is really how do you handle the writes? So
all the other things, even deletes, writes and deletes. Creates. Yep,
all the things. So what we're going to do is go into the C# side because that's where we have to do this. Is all in the back end.
Yep.
And we're going to jump in and create a behavior for our question.
Yep. So here's our question. And so when you're creating a behavior, it's very similar to how you kind of set up your data source where it's going to be its own class. So you're just going to come down here and say new class, so public class, and then I usually call this the name of the model and then behaviors.
Now, unlike data sources where you can have many data sources because you can request a particular data source to get the kind of data back you want, there is only one set of behaviors for because you don't want your client being able to change that, right? So now you could technically have multiple on the backside just by using if blocks. Like you could say, hey, if you're this user, then these rules apply. And that's exactly what this is for. Because you may have some users you want to be able to write into all the fields. You may have other ones that you only want to be able to write into some of them. Now you can also control those with security attributes, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But this is the general idea. So here we have, you have your behavior, and we're just going to derive from the standard behaviors. And the standard behaviors are simply the implementation of the load, save, or the update, delete. I guess that's it. Yeah, and create.
Yeah, but those are kind of combined.
Yeah, they're all kind of correct. Yeah, they're combined in a sense, and we'll show you how that works. But it's essentially has that functionality, that default. The standard behaviors has that for your objects, and you have to pass in two different type parameters. One is the question, and then you actually have to hand in what context it is. So this is just your DB context.
Very, very similar to kind of how the data source is set up.
Yep, very much the same.
And then you have a couple of options when you're overriding these methods. So you've got for both save and delete, you have a before, an on, and an after. So you have a before save. I think it's just called, it's not called on save. I think it's just called save or execute save, I believe. Yeah, there it is, execute save. But that's basically your on save. And then there's an after save. Same with that, you have before delete, on delete, and the after delete. And all that means is that before you actually commit to the database, which is what we're going to override, we want to check that foreign key is set up right because we don't want to commit to the database and then check.
Right. So we can just, in this case, stop the save from happening, return an error so that the user can see that. Now, let's say you wanted to do some other kind of update after something saves, then you can put it in the after save. If you had, like, let's say you wanted to do a little logging or something like that, you could do that in the after save.
Yep. So here we are, and you can see we've got an old item and we've got a new item. And I think that we want to do this.
What's that kind property for?
Yeah, so this kind, you can kind of see autopilot attempting to do something, although it's not quite right. There's only two save kinds, and insert is not one of them. So you've got create and update, which I suppose insert was attempting to do a create there.
But really, we have to check this every time that particular field changes. So we could check to see if the field actually changed by comparing the old
and then because I don't think I agree. I don't think we want to do it on a particular kind of save. That's whether it's a create or an update. We always want to check. So we're actually not going to use this property at all, or that parameter. I think what we're going to do is what you said, where we are going to check if the old item with parentheses, not with a star, old item question ID, correct answer ID, does not equal item correct answer ID, then that means that it's updating And this can be null. So if it's even going from null to something being set, we want to check this.
Great. So now we're going to have to do actually a lookup to see if that particular incoming correct answer ID, which we probably should check to make sure it's not null.
Yeah.
Before we do a lookup. So I guess if it's null, is it nullable?
Well, I don't think it is.
It is null.
Oh, it is null.
Yeah,
we can make it null. That's right.
Yeah.
So yes. So we do want to also check. Well, maybe we should just check that out here, right? And just say, and item.correct answer ID is not null. So
that's
if you make it null, it's fine.
Yeah, if we're setting it to null, then we don't have to do this check.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got our two conditions in our if, and now in here, what Grant's saying is we want to do a database lookup. Now, question here, how do we access our database? So this is all on the base class, that standard behaviors, and you should be able to just do DB, and there's your database. It's already defined for you. And now we're going to look up from the answers, because we want to be able to get the correct answers question ID. So we need to go get the navigation property, which is probably not. So if I were to just look at, for example, item.correct answer, this is probably null right now. So that's why we're doing a database lookup, or at least has the possibility of being null.
Right, depending on your data source, it's going to load it with your data source. And so if we've asked the data source to load that, we probably could just ask if the answers collection has that answer in it.
We probably could. It probably would work because Coalesce auto includes things for you. But
we're going to show you the other way because we think that's important to know. So you can probably do this without a database lookup at this point. But right now, we're just going to show you how to do that. And you could probably just do an inline any with an if statement.
Yeah, which we could do either. But
yeah, let's do this. Great. This is good.
So answers where answer ID equals the item correct answer ID, and then that should just be a first or default, or even maybe just a first, because that should exist if you've got a foreign key relationship to it. And now we're going to say if correct answer dot question ID, and if it's null, then we also want to cause a problem, right? Does not equal item question ID. Then we can do kind of something like this, although not as verbose. And we can talk about item results in just a second here, but let's go over kind of what's happening first. So yes, we're looking up our correct answer. You can either do that with the database lookup, or you can try it the way Grant was mentioning, which should definitely work unless you turn off those auto includes.
Right. And we can also do this just as one if, like with an any, where both things are inside the any block. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. We're just trying to make it plug explicit here. So
and then you check if that correct answers question ID does not equal the question ID of the thing you're trying to save. It means that it's not a child of that question. You probably shouldn't be setting that as the correct answer because it's not an option when you're looking at it in the UI. Then we're going to return back this error message saying the correct answer must be a child of the question. Now, this is really interesting because this is just, we're kind of returning a string. We're not throwing an error or anything like that. And what we're returning here is actually this item result, which is a Coalesce. Let's see, open this up. A little Coalesce wrapper here.
So this is basically gives you back more information about any kind of error or result that you're getting back from the system.
Yeah, so this has, I think it has a success message on it. Or sorry, it just has a successful, and then it has the error message. And then you can actually return back the object itself. This is typed. So if you were doing this in like your own custom method, you could type this as item result type and then whatever you want to return back, and then you return that type or you return the error message. Now,
and these all get wrapped. So we haven't talked about services yet, but if you want to do that, that would be an option too.
Yeah. So we don't actually have to regenerate Coalesce for this because there's only one set of behaviors, and Coalesce knows that you need behaviors. So it's just going to kind of look at, you've just overridden this with C#. It doesn't need to generate anything for this.
Right. And just one little thing on that string, what's going to happen is when you hand a string in, it's going to create the other object and mark the success criteria as false.
Yes. Yeah.
So it just does that automatically. So that way you don't have to construct an object right there.
Yeah. Returning a string here will always return that error. So if you need to return a string as your actual success object, you need to
create
do
the
a little
object.
extra work there and create the object and set that success or not success by yourself. So let's go to the admin page because this is kind of the easiest.
It's really the only place we can do it because we
Yeah.
made our other code so you can't do this.
Yeah, unless I open up Postman or something. And then this is what I'm looking for. So we go to our question. We'll make sure this works. Head over here. Okay, so I want to make sure this works with children first still. So if we hit Normandy, that should work. Now if I hit one of the Canada ones,
or no, I don't know.
I think we put London as
Canada. Oh yeah, that was the wrong answer from France. Yeah.
the European ones are for France.
Good.
All the Canada ones. Yeah. So if we put Vancouver, hopefully we'll get an error. So there you go. You have an error. It does say that it said it, but if you refresh the page, it hasn't actually said it. And
well, there's that big red bar at the top.
yeah, that big red bar is a little bit of a hint too that it did not save. So yeah, and that's really nice because that's a nice, easy way to display an error message. And all that's just a C loader with an error message on it whenever you save.
Great. And all that stuff's coming back in your save event when you call save. You're going to get that data.
Yep, you can get all that
after. So anyway, that's pretty slick. And like you say, there are some async methods. Not all of them have async methods because there's certain cases where it was very, very difficult to actually do an async right there. But there's some async options. Let's see. And again, just go in there, look at how the things you want to override. It's really pretty easy. You just like kind of do override and you find the thing that you want to override and mess around with that. And like we said, we could probably have done this without even doing a database lookup because the stuff gets loaded in advance.
Yeah.
But just in case, I mean, we just again wanted to show you how to access that DB context. So again, multiple ways of doing it. And I think Coalesce provides some pretty great features for doing these kinds of things. So anything else, Meg, that we've missed here?
I think that's it. I think that's good. Maybe we cover services next.
Yeah, I think services and methods or some cool stuff. So anyway, until next time, keep on building awesome apps with Coalesce.